What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. About 2 months ago, I reviewed the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. It was mostly a positive review and everything in that video still stands. If you'd like to see a more full review of the MSI Claw 8, I'll put a link in the description to that video if you want to check it out. In this video, I'm just going to take a few minutes to hit on the main likes and dislikes or things that may need improved that I have for the Claw 8 over the past couple of months I've spent for it. In short, my positivity hasn't diminished at all for the device, and there's nothing from my original review that needs walked back or changed, so it's nice that everything there really still sticks today. It's been a solid experience with its normal launch bugs and issues for some users, but hopefully MSI and Intel will continue with their updates and improvements. So let's get into it and talk the things I like and don't necessarily like or think need improved or that you may not like about the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. Okay, so let's start with some of the things I tend to not necessarily like so much about the MSI Claw 8 and what you might not like either or what might bother others. Most of these things just really need improvements, but I think everything here is worth mentioning. So while there's a nice update from the original MSI Center M, there are still plenty of places to improve with their overlay. Mainly in the features or info available in MSI Center versus competitors like ASUS's Armoury Crate SE or Lenovo's Legion Space. While it functions fine and gets the job done, it is a bit more bare bones versus the other options we see in other handhelds. So while it works fine, I'd definitely like to see some more features here and improvements overall to MSI Center M. One thing I do like about the MSI Center M though is this integration into the game bar, which kind of makes it easy to get into those settings. It reminds you of Command Center on Armoury Crate, but it's integrated right into the game bar in Windows, and it works out pretty well. So that's actually something I do like. I just hope we see more improvements to the center all in all. Now, TDP options are a bit of contention for me on here as well. I don't really like the AI or the longer supposedly battery saving modes. I like the manual modes, the 8, the 17, and the 30. They tend to work the best for me, but really we are limited on TDP options here with this thing, and it is a fairly decent, efficient chip and a nice step up from what Intel had before. So I'd really like to see something implemented between 17 and 30 watts, maybe a 22 or a 25, or maybe eventually just a custom slider altogether to give us some control in between that. While games do suffer, some of the harder to run games at 17 watts, they tend to run very well at 30, and I have a hunch a lot of these games that we just need a little bit more power for might do well at 22. So I definitely like to see more TDP options and some overall smoothing out of their power profiles altogether. Now here's one that's pretty annoying to me, and maybe it just ties back to MSI Center as well, but it's a feature I use on all of the handhelds, which is keyboard shortcuts. The ability to go into your software like Armoury Crate or Legion Space and create hotkeys or shortcuts for your buttons on your controller so that you can easily do things that way, like bringing up features in GeForce Now or maybe doing something with some other apps. So we can't do that on the MSI Claw. We can really only remap the buttons that are on the device, and we can't add in keyboard shortcuts currently to those, let alone combination keys. So while we can still bring up a keyboard during any other time and put in combination keys manually and do what we need to do, it would be really nice to see them implement the multi-key ability into the actual mapping of the controls that you can do on the device. Okay, so here's something that's not necessarily a big issue for me, but I know for some people it's definitely going to be a big deal, and that's AMD Adrenalin. This comes packed with features and a lot of great things that you can use these days, including the new AMD Fluid Motion Frames 2.1, which seems to be working fairly well on a lot of these devices. Now, I more use in-game features, and I do rarely use app features that are in Adrenalin or NVIDIA or any of that type of stuff. And Intel isn't necessarily barren of these apps either. There are, or of these features either. There's plenty there that they have as well. But Adrenalin is just a user-friendly, pretty feature-full app that I think Intel needs to kind of continue to work toward as they get their drivers better and their software better. I just think it's something a lot of people will look at and kind of miss Adrenalin if you're someone who really leans on that software a lot on your handheld. All right, and what about launch window bugs? Well, fortunately for me, I can report that in my 2 months, I've not experienced any of the bugs that I've either had friends report or read about online. A couple of those being the controller not working after a firmware update, which was pretty annoying for a lot of people I noticed, but fortunately, I didn't have an issue with that. And there's a power profile issue going between plugged in and unplugged or on battery, this seems to be a bit of an issue here and there as well. Now, that's not the only things, but those are a couple of them that I've read about, and I know someone who has had some issues with this stuff. But out of 4 people, including myself, that do have the MSI Claw 8 and have kind of pretty much had it for since launch, that's the only person I know personally besides Post Online that have had these problems. The other 3 of us, luckily so far, haven't. So take that as you will. That seems to be the way. But there's always some kind of launch window bugs. The ROG Ally, the Steam Deck, the Legion Go, everything kind of has its rough month or two, but it's up to those companies to continue with updates and improve. So hopefully MSI and Intel will continue to do that along the way this year. Now, one final thing I want to mention here is going to be price, and I believe this is going to change over time as I talked about in my full review video. But currently at about $900 USD before tax, the Claw 8 AI Plus is a fairly expensive handheld. At least when you compare it to the handhelds we've had the past couple of years with the Z1 Extremes and some others. But we are seeing that newer 2025 handhelds seem to be launching more expensive. Look at the poorly reviewed $730 Legion Go S that I also recently had hands on. And the upcoming Legion Go 2 is looking to potentially hit $1,000 or more at launch. So while I would agree that for now the MSI Claw 8 is a bit pricey and a lot of consumers looking at these devices may not want to go that route, it may not look that way in a few months as more devices release. Now, it's nice as well that MSI does have the Claw 7 AI Plus with the same chipset, but in a smaller 7-inch screen device, so a little less battery life. Not sure about the thermals on it, but all in all, for $100 less, it should offer the same to similar performance as the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. Okay, with some of my more negatives out of the way, let's hit on the things that I really still like about the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. And like I said before, nothing much has really changed over my main review. So really just kind of checking in here at the 2-month mark. So first would be the overall design and comfort. For me, I was really surprised at how this device felt from the time I unboxed it and then reviewed it and continuing to now. I thought it would feel a lot heavier than it actually does, and while it is a larger, weightier device and it does have that 80 watt hour battery, it feels very well balanced and just doesn't feel that heavy for me in my hands. It's fairly ergonomic as well. It's kind of a flatter device, but does have some curve around those edges for the controller part on the sides. And yeah, I don't know, it's just a very comfortable device for me to use. I still think my Steam Deck is probably my most ergonomic comfortable device, but this thing is really right up there for me, as is my ROG Ally X, which I found way more comfortable than the original Ally. So I really do like the overall just comfort, design, look and feel of this device and gaming on it as well. The audio quality is something here that's great too. I'm not someone that really uses headphones a lot. I actually do use the speakers on all these devices a lot, which does make using the original Legion Go a little hard sometimes because those speakers are not great. I really love my Ally speakers, especially the Ally X, but the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus is just a bit ahead of my Ally X. I really enjoy the quality of these. They do not get distorted when you turn them way up. They still sound pretty good. They got a little bit of depth to them, but yeah, they are still handheld speakers, but I think they've done a really good job here with them. Now the screen is also something I really like on this device, and it's something I actually liked on the Legion Go S because I believe it's the same IPS screen. Now we're not looking at OLED here, which would increase the cost, but this is a good looking IPS display that's right up there with the original Legion Go, but it's in a landscape format, which is great. 120 Hz with VRR and up to 500 nits. So this has been great to game on. I do have a screen protector on it now. I didn't for my first couple of months. I've just added that official one from MSI on there, but yeah, I've had no problems with it. I love the 8-inch size. It seems like a really good sweet spot for me between that 7 and 8.8. So looking forward to some more 8-inch devices, but yeah, I've really enjoyed the screen on this device for sure. And what about battery life? That's definitely something here that's really not an issue for me, which is a big positive. At the full-on 30 watt TDP, you're going to hit 39 to 42 watt drain, and that gives you about 2 hours of battery life. So if you're playing something really hard to run and you're just maxing things out, you're still going to get about 2 hours, which is much better than what my original Ally or Legion Go would get maxed out. Dropping things down to 17 watts TDP with a power draw of 23 to 27 watts, you can get yourself closer to like 2.8, 2.9 to 3.5 hours. And if you're really sipping power and you're only pulling 7 to 13 watts running something really easy or streaming or cloud gaming, remote play, whatever the case may be, you could really stretch yourself out to 6 to 10 hours pretty easily on the device as well. This is a much more efficient chip than what Intel has had before, a huge leap over last year's Intel Core Ultra 7, which I did not cover long term, and I have found this to be really nice. So battery life here has been fine for me as well. Okay, so something else I really like about this device and just being Intel in general, and again, normally I wouldn't have jumped into an Intel device and really enjoyed it this much, but I just think they did such a good job this time. But we have that direct driver support. Now, that's not new. We had that with the Claw last year with the Core Ultra first gen chip that I really didn't like. But the direct Intel driver support is really nice. You can get it right away online from their website, download it, and just install it directly. No sideload, no working to it. It just works. Or you can wait for the app, which normally within a day or two, it'll pop up in there, and you can just install it directly that way. Intel directly supporting the GPU drivers for the device makes a big deal. Makes a big difference when newer games are coming out like Monster Hunter, Rise of Ronin, Shadows, all these different things, and then we can get those drivers right away. With other devices currently that run AMD like the Z1 Extreme, we rely on companies like ASUS and Lenovo to get their drivers ready and push out to us, which often puts us 1 to 3 months behind, if not longer sometimes. So that direct driver support from Intel for me is a really big deal and makes a big difference for the experience on this device, especially since I test so many newer games. Something else that's nice, and just like how AMD devices support FSR natively, so typically FSR features work better on AMD hardware, even though you can run them on things like Intel or NVIDIA, XeSS runs better on Intel and looks better. So XeSS, and especially XeSS 2, which has Intel's frame generation technology in it, which is in games like Marvel Rivals currently and coming to more games this year, it's something that runs great on this device. And XeSS is really getting close and up there towards more like NVIDIA's DLSS quality than AMD's FSR quality. XeSS has been doing really good the past couple of years, and XeSS 2 with their frame gen, with their anti-lag, has tested pretty well on the MSI Claw 8 for me so far. So this is another real positive for me, that direct driver support plus their XeSS features are getting better and better as we go here. I think the final thing I'll mention here, and this for me is probably the biggest deal out of everything for these gaming handhelds, which is just simply game performance. How do games feel? How do they run? And for the most part on the Claw 8, even though there are times where Intel struggles on the driver side, for the most part, especially these newer games, it runs as well or better than my Z1 Extreme devices. And sometimes it loses out and vice versa, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And sometimes the Claw really gets ahead. But overall, gaming performance just for this device and looking at what it can do has been really good. I've been really impressed since I've gotten it. I really didn't expect it to do so well after last year's experience with the Intel Core Ultra 7, but Intel has made some huge strides here, and I'm really interested to see what we get next year and the year after if they were able to do this much just between one generation. Okay, so that's my updated goods and bads here for the MSI Claw 8, and while I try to stay as balanced as I can, I really do like this device a lot even after the past couple of months. When not working on content with all the devices I have here, the Claw 8 is still my go-to when grabbing a device for some personal game time. It's funny because before this device, there's no way I was grabbing an Intel-based handheld. I am at my heart a big AMD fan and always have been. And while Intel still has work to do, it's impressive how far they've come in the past couple of years. In the future, another handheld will take the place of what I want to grab up, and just as always happens, I've gone from the Steam Deck to the Legion Go to the Ally X to the Claw 8 in that order pretty much as my daily drivers when I'm not making videos. The Legion Go 2 is still my most anticipated device so far for 2025, and there are other great devices on the way. But for now, until something comes along that I have more fun gaming on than the MSI Claw 8, well, then it just holds that spot. It's by no means perfect, and it has its issues, but so do all of our handhelds. I'm looking forward to all the other devices coming this year, and I'm excited to compare and look at them all and get some more reviews. This is a space that I love, and I'm happy that it's growing. The tech's continuing to improve while grabbing more interest from gamers and consumers. I think we're looking at a great few years in handheld improvements coming to design and the performance. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much going to do it for this one. I just wanted to hit some more here on the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus with more content to come. And of course, we have a lot of games that are going to be coming out to test as well. As always, thanks a lot for coming to watch the video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.